Good morning, children. Welcome to chemistry class. Today's topic is atomic structure or structure of atom. You know that the entire universe is made up of two things. One is matter and the other is energy. Energy is the ability to do the work, and matter is anything which occupies a space and possesses some mass. You know the different physical states in which the matter exists, and the different kinds of matter also depending on the composition. The Indian and Greek philosophers are very enthusiastic, and they were very interested about the unknown and unseen forms of matter. Long ago, that is, in the 6th century of BC, that means 2500 years back, an Indian saint or sage, Maharshi Kanada, proposed that matter, that is Padarth, if we go on dividing the Padarth, we get smaller and smaller particles. If we go on like this, we come across a stage where the particles are not further divisible. That means it's not possible to divide the particles further. And he named these particles as Paramanu. Another says Fukuda Kachayana, also known as Kagsayana or Mahakachayana, a Buddhist and a contemporary of Gautam Buddha and a rebel of Karma Siddhanta, elaborated the ideas of Maharshi Kanada, and he said that the Paramanus exist in nature in the combined form in different kinds of matter. That is, Paramanus combined together to form various kinds of matter. In the same era, that is more or less at the same period, the Greek philosopher Democritus proposed the same idea, that is, matter on dividing, we get the smallest piece or smallest particle which cannot be further divisible, and he named these particles as atomos. In Greek, atomos means indivisible, that means not further divisible. And another philosopher, Lysippus, proposed that the Paramanus combine, that is, atoms combine in different compositions to form the molecules. That is, different kinds of matter are formed by the combination of atoms. That is, more or less the same ideas were presented by the Greek philosophers as well as the Indian sages or rishis, more or less at the same time. This belief was continued for a long time. All these predictions made by these rishis or the philosophers are based on philosophical aspects only. There were no experimental evidences for these predictions. In the year 1808, the British school teacher John Dalton proposed his atomic theory. According to John Dalton, the matter is made up of small particles known as, tiny particles known as atoms, which are indivisible. That is, same ideas of the Maharshi Kanada or the Democritus. Matter is made up of tiny particles known as atoms. The atoms are indivisible. That is one of the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. Another postulate is atoms of one element are identical in all the aspects. That is, atoms of one element are exactly similar in size, exactly similar in mass, exactly similar in shape, and exactly similar in any of the properties. And the third postulate is atoms of different elements are different in their properties. Atoms of different elements are different in all the properties. That is, the masses of no two elements are same, the sizes of no two elements are same, the shapes of no atoms of no two elements are same, like that. And another postulate is atoms combine in a simple whole number ratio to form compound atoms. Atoms combine in a simple whole number ratio to form compound atoms. And another postulate is atoms are the smallest particles of matter which take part in chemical reactions. That is, the chemical reactions are the result of mutual exchange of atoms between different substances. These are the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. Okay, what are the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory? Dalton's atomic theory. The important postulates of Dalton's atomic theory are: one is matter is made up of tiny small particles or tiny particles. Tiny means very small. Tiny particles known as atoms and are indivisible The second point is atoms of one element are identical in all the aspects. Third one is atoms of different elements are different. Atoms of different elements are different in all the aspects. Another one is atoms combine in a simple whole number ratio, to form compound atoms. Fifth one is atoms are the smallest particles of matter which take part in chemical reactions. These are the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. But our great scientists proved that atoms are divisible from their experiments in the recent years. Great scientists proved that atoms are divisible, and that is, atoms are made up of still smaller particles known as electrons, protons, and neutrons. And these particles possess electrical nature. Some of these particles possess electrical nature. These were found by our great scientists in the recent years. That is, after the Dalton's atomic theory, that is after 1808. Okay, so the first postulate of Dalton's atomic theory, that is, matter is made up of tiny particles known as atoms which are indivisible, is proved to be wrong. So there was a big blast to this postulate by the discovery of the subatomic particles like electrons, protons, and neutrons. So the first postulate of Dalton's atomic theory is not valid. Now let us come to the second postulate. Atoms of one element are identical in all the aspects. But after the discovery of isotopes, it was found that atoms of one element are not identical in all the aspects. For example, hydrogen exists in the form of hydrogen, deuterium, and tritium. Hydrogen H11, deuterium H12, and tritium H13. Hydrogen has 1 unit of mass, normal hydrogen has 1 unit of mass. Deuterium has a mass which is double that of normal hydrogen atom, and an atom of tritium has a mass 3 times to that of mass of normal hydrogen atom. All are hydrogen atoms only. Their atomic numbers are same. They belong to the same element, but their masses are different. That means atoms of one element are not identical in all the aspects. That is, this is a blast to the second postulate of Dalton's atomic theory. Okay. Next one is, atoms of different elements are different in all the aspects. Isobars possess the same masses. For example, argon and calcium. Argon and calcium are the isobars. Atomic number of argon is 18 and atomic number of calcium is 40. They are the atoms of different elements. Their chemical behaviors are different, but their masses are same. They have 40 units of mass. Both argon and calcium have 40 units of mass. That is, they have the mass of 40 atomic mass units. Masses are almost same, but they are the atoms of the different elements argon and calcium. In this way, the atoms of this kind of several pairs of elements like this, which possess the same mass but different properties exist. This is a blush to the third postulate of Dalton's atomic theory. And fourth postulate is the atoms combine in a simple whole number ratio to form compound atoms. But when the chemistry is developed, it was proved that in most of the cases atoms combine in a simple whole number ratio, but there are so many compounds in which atoms combine or atoms are not combined in simple whole number ratio. For example, a molecule of sucrose C12H22O11. A molecule of sucrose. Here the whole number ratio of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen is 12:22:11, which is not a simple whole number ratio. And the molecules of polymers and proteins have large number of molecules, large number of atoms, large size of molecules, and they are made with a large number of atoms. So in those molecules, the number of atoms of constituent elements are not in a simple whole number ratio. That means the fourth postulate of Dalton's atomic theory is also not right. The fifth one is atoms are the smallest particles of matter which take part in the chemical reactions, which is believed to be true till now. Due to the interchange of atoms from one molecule to the other molecule, the chemical reactions are taking place. A chemical reaction is nothing but a rearrangement of atoms. The old bonds between the atoms are broken and new bonds are formed between different atoms. And this is happening during the chemical reactions. So among these five postulates of Dalton's atomic theory, only the fifth postulate, that is the last postulate, is the only postulate that is reliable nowadays. And all the other four postulates are proved to be wrong according to the developments of chemistry. Okay? From these, we can understand that as the atoms are made up of still smaller particles and some of the particles are possessing charges, electric charges. Electron possesses a negative charge and proton possesses positive charge. That is, matter possesses electrical nature. The experimental evidence of electrical nature of matter was first observed by Michael Faraday through his experiments. After the discovery of voltaic cell, a source of electricity, the scientists were enthusiastic to pass the electricity through different substances. Scientists passed the electricity through various solids, and they observed that some solids are able to conduct the electricity through them, and some solids do not conduct the electricity through them, and some solids conduct the electricity through them only in certain conditions, but not in all the conditions. And on the basis of this, the solids were classified into conductors of electricity, insulators of electricity, and semiconductors. And they not only pass the electricity through the gases but also the liquids and solutions and gases also. When the electricity is passed through different liquids or solutions, the solutions also, some solutions allowed the electricity to pass through them, or some liquids allowed the electricity to pass through them. When the electricity is passed through some liquids or the substances in the form of solutions, Michael Faraday found that various substances or various elements or the constituent elements or the substances are liberated at the cathode and anode, that is electrodes. When electricity is passed through various liquids or solutions, what Faraday observed, the formation of various elements at the electrodes is observed by Michael Faraday. And this process of decomposition of compound into its constituent elements by the passage of electricity is known as electrolysis. In these experiments, Faraday observed that when a fixed amount of electricity is passed through a solution, the amounts of elements liberated or deposited at the electrodes also possess fixed masses. Faraday's experiments led to the formation of the laws of electrolysis, the two laws of electrolysis. When a fixed mass of electricity is passed through different particular electrolyte, the various elements deposited or liberated at the electrodes are fixed. Whenever the same quantity of electricity is passed, the same quantities of the elements were obtained at the electrodes. For example, when 96,500 coulombs of electricity, coulombs, this is known as 1 Faraday. This amount of electricity is known as 1 Faraday. It is 1 Faraday or 96,500 coulombs of electricity is passed through the fused sodium chloride. Fused sodium chloride, it was observed that 1 mole of sodium is formed at the cathode and half mole of chlorine is liberated at the anode. 1 mole of sodium is formed at the cathode and half mole of chlorine is liberated at the anode. Whenever you pass these many coulombs of electricity through liquid sodium chloride, the amounts of sodium and chlorine formed at the electrodes will be 1 mole sodium and half mole chlorine. This led to the first law of electrolysis, that is, the amount of substance liberated or deposited at the electrode is directly proportional to the quantity of electricity passed. That is, M is equal to Q, or M is proportional to Q, or M is proportional to I into T, where I is the current and T is the time of passage of electricity. M is proportional to Q, or M is proportional to I into T. This is the first law of electrolysis. Okay. When the same amount of electricity is passed through different electrolytes, it was observed that the amounts of various substances or various elements liberated at the electrodes are in simple whole number ratio. Here, by the passage of 96,500 coulombs of electricity through liquid sodium chloride, for the formation of each mole of sodium chloride, half mole of chlorine gas is liberated at the anode. For the formation of 1 mole of sodium chloride at cathode, half mole of chlorine is liberated at the anode. In the same way, when the same quantity of electricity is passed through liquid magnesium chloride, when 96,500 coulombs of electricity is passed, half mole of magnesium is formed and half mole of chlorine is formed. Here the ratio of magnesium and sodium formed at the electrodes is 1:1. The ratio of sodium and magnesium formed at the electrodes when the same quantity of electricity is passed through liquid sodium chloride and liquid magnesium chloride is 1:half or 2:1. 1:half or 2:1. This is known as Faraday's second law of electrolysis. When the same current is passed through different electrolytes, the amounts of elements liberated or deposited are in a simple whole number ratio of their number of moles. This led to the formation of second law of electrolysis. That is, these two laws, he observed that these two laws are in agreement with a law of definite proportions and a law of multiple proportions. The first law of electrolysis is just like the law of definite proportions. The second law of electrolysis is just like the law of multiple proportions. That is, the quantities of substances liberated are in simple whole number ratio. So he compared these laws of electrolysis with laws of chemical reactions. The laws of electrolysis were compared with the laws of chemical reactions, that is law of definite proportions and the law of multiple proportions. And he concluded that matter is made up of electrical particles, or matter is made up of particles possessing electric charge. The simplest particle of matter which possesses the charge is said to be the atom of electricity. Electricity is considered to have particle nature just like matter. Matter has particle nature. The laws of electrolysis are similar to laws of chemical reactions. So he concluded that electricity also is made up, or electricity also is having particle nature, and these particles of electricity are named as atoms of electricity. But in the year 1874, G.J. Stoney named these particles as electrons. G.J. Stoney named these particles as electrons. But the experimental evidence for the existence of electrons were found in 1898. Existence of these particles were found in 1898 in the experiments of J.J. Thomson. Such kind of electrical particles which are responsible for the electrical nature of matter were known as electrons by G.J. Stoney in the year 1874, and experimental evidence for those particles was obtained from J.J. Thomson's experiments in the year 1898. Okay? In this way, we can conclude that Atom is not the tiny particle which is indivisible. There are still smaller particles present in the atom. That is, atom is made up of still smaller particles, and the arrangement of these particles in the atom is said to be the atomic structure or structure of atom. What is atomic structure? The arrangement of constituent particles present in the atom is known as atomic structure or structure of atom. Let us see how these particles were discovered. These particles were discovered by the efforts of many scientists. After the discovery of the voltaic cell, I already told you that the scientists were enthusiastic in passing electricity through, not only through solids and liquids, but also gases. This kind of experiments were started by Michael Faraday in the year 1838. He tried to send the electricity through various gases, but he could not successful in passing the electricity through the gases. He could not successful. Okay. And later on his experiments were, who started these experiments? Michael Faraday. In the year 1838, he tried to pass the electricity through gases, but not successful. Later on in the year, Julius Plucker, in the year approximately 1867, I think, continued these experiments, and Julius Plucker was also not successful in passing the electricity, and these experiments were continued by William Crookes. William Crookes continued these experiments. In order to pass the electricity through the gases, they used a cylindrical glass tube known as a discharge tube. Discharge tube is a cylindrical glass tube like this, possessing 50 centimeters of length and approximately 5 centimeters of diameter. 5 centimeters diameter and 50 centimeters length. A glass tube mounted with the two metallic strips at the ends. The glass tube is mounted with the two metallic strips at the ends, and these metallic strips are known as electrodes. To the glass tube, there are two outlets. One for connecting to manometer. One for connecting to manometer, which is useful for measuring the pressure inside the discharge tube. Another one is connected to a vacuum pump. Vacuum pump to evacuate the glass tube, to take out the gas present in the discharge tube. Two outlets are provided with this, and scientists try to pass the electricity through gases, but ordinary pressures and with ordinary potentials, they could not pass the electricity through the gases. The passage of electricity through the gases was successfully conducted by William Crookes in the year 1878. 1878. These electrodes are connected to a battery which is connected to an induction coil. Induction coil. Through an induction coil, the electrodes are connected to the battery. A 12 volts battery is used here. This induction coil increases the voltage of the electricity to 10,000 volts to 20,000 volts. It can increase the voltage of the electricity from 12 volts to 10,000 volts to 20,000 volts. So in order to increase the voltage of electricity, the induction coil is inserted in the circuit, and by the help of this vacuum pump, the scientist William Crookes evacuated the discharge tube, and at various pressures inside the discharge tube, he observed various things happening in the discharge tube. Manometer is used to measure the pressure of the gas present in the discharge tube. Till the pressure is 10 mm mercury, nothing is observed in the discharge tube. Even high voltage is used, nothing is observed in the discharge tube till the pressure is reached to 10 millimeters mercury. When the pressure is reached to 10 millimeters mercury, it was observed that a blue colored light starts passing through the gas present in the discharge tube with a crackling sound. A blue colored light begins to pass from cathode to anode. Blue colored light in the form of a stream passes from cathode to anode in the discharge tube, and it was called as a blue stream. It was happened at 10 millimeters mercury pressure. Okay. When the pressure is decreased to 5 millimeters mercury, when the pressure is decreased to 5 millimeters mercury, it was observed that the blue colored streaming is broadened. The streaming is broadened and became steady. The blue colored stream is broadened and became steady at a pressure inside the discharge tube is 5 millimeters mercury. The atmospheric pressure is 760 millimeters mercury. This pressure inside the glass tube is reduced to 5 millimeters mercury, and this situation, the blue colored streaming which is passing through the gas is broadened, and the illumination, that is the lighting, improved. That is that stream was stabilized at 5 millimeters mercury pressure, and this kind of streaming is known as Giesler's discharge. This is called Giesler's discharge. Giesslers, Giesler's discharge. When the pressure is reduced to 2 millimeters mercury, when the pressure is reduced to 2 millimeters mercury, it was found that a colored illumination appeared or emitting from anode. Here, the terminal which is connected to the negative terminal of the battery is known as cathode, and the terminal which is connected to the electrode which is connected to the positive terminal of the battery is anode. A colored stream is observed to form from anode to cathode and it occupied the space between anode and cathode at a pressure of 2 millimeters mercury inside the discharge tube. And this colored stream is named as positive column. This is named as positive column. As it is formed from anode, a positively charged electrode, it is named as positive column. When the pressure inside the discharge tube is reduced to 1 millimeter mercury, the positive column moves towards anode. What happens? The positive column moves towards anode. Another glow appears at the cathode, and this glow is named as negative glow. The glow appears at the cathode is named as negative glow. In between the negative glow at the cathode and the positive column, a dark space is formed, and that dark space is named as Faraday's dark space. What is that space called? Faraday's dark space. Faraday's dark space is formed between the positive column and negative glow. Negative glow is formed at cathode. The color of the column, positive column, depends upon the nature of the gas present in the discharge tube. The color of the positive column depends upon the nature of the gas present in the discharge tube. If air is used, the positive column is red in color. If hydrogen gas is used, the positive column is blue in color. If argon is used, the positive column is pink in color. If chlorine gas is used, the positive column is green in color. In that way, the color of the positive column or the color of the glow in the discharge tube depends upon the nature of the gas present in the discharge tube. Okay, in between the positive column and the negative glow, there exists a dark space, and that dark space is named as Faraday's dark space, in order to honor the scientist Faraday who started this discharge tube experiments. When the pressure is further reduced to 0.5 millimeters mercury, when the pressure is further reduced to 0.5 millimeters mercury, it was observed that the size of the positive column decreased. It moved still close to anode. It moved still close to anode, and this negative glow also started detached from. It started detached from cathode. Negative glow started detached from cathode. We already named that the space, dark space between the negative glow and positive column is Faraday's dark space. That is, Faraday's dark space is shifted to right side. This is the negative glow. Negative glow is shifted to middle of the glass tube or towards the anode. And again another glow is obtained at cathode. That is named as cathode glow. That glow is named as cathode glow. In between the cathode glow and negative glow, another dark space was found. A small dark space was found in between cathode glow and this negative glow, and that dark space was named as Crookes dark space. Crookes dark space. At which pressure this was happened? at 0.5 millimeters mercury pressure. When the pressure is further decreased to 0.05 millimeters mercury, to 0.05 millimeters mercury, it was observed that this positive glow was split into stripes. The positive glow was split into stripes like this. A combination of dark and white patches. It splits into patches, dark patches between which some space is formed. And these patches were named as striations. These are named as striations. These striations are formed at 0.05 millimeters mercury pressure. When the pressure in the discharge tube is further reduced to 0.01 millimeters mercury, everything in the discharge tube is disappeared. Everything in the discharge tube is disappeared when the pressure inside the discharge tube is further reduced to 0.01 millimeters mercury. That is, the cathode glow is disappeared, the negative glow is disappeared, cathode glow is disappeared, negative glow is disappeared, and striations also disappeared. And at this stage, it was found that the walls of the discharge tube opposite to the cathode start glowing with greenish blue colored light. The walls of the glass tube opposite to cathode starting glowing with greenish blue colored light. From this, it was predicted that some invisible rays are emitting from cathode. Some invisible rays are emitting from cathode. Invisible rays are emitting from cathode. As these rays are falling on the walls of the glass tube, the walls are illuminating with greenish blue color. The walls are glowing with greenish blue color because of the hitting of these particles or these rays on the walls of the discharge tube. As these rays are emitting from cathode, these rays are named as cathode rays. And these cathode rays were invented by William Crookes. Who discovered the cathode rays? William Crookes discovered the cathode rays. Later on, these experiments were continued by another scientist, J.J. Thomson, and Thomson studied the properties of these cathode rays. Let us discuss the properties of cathode rays in the next class. Thank you.
Discharge tube. It is a tube which is used to study the electrical conduction through gases at low pressure. In this frame, the experimental setup to study the discharge phenomena is shown. It consists of a glass tube which is 50 cm long and its diameter is 5 cm. Two electrodes, A called anode and C called cathode, are connected to the secondary coil. The discharge tube is connected with the pressure gauge whose function is to measure the pressure inside the tube, and a vacuum pump whose function is to reduce the pressure inside the tube. At atmospheric pressure, there is no discharge through the gases because at this pressure gas molecules are not ionized and do not pass electricity. At 10 mmHg pressure, in this pressure, luminous streaks called blue streamers are appeared between the electrodes, and cracking sound is heard. At 5 mm Hg pressure. When the pressure is reduced to 5 mm Hg, the blue streamers broaden out with colorful column called Jessler discharge, and buzzing sound is heard. For air, the color is red. For hydrogen, the color is blue. For helium, the color is pink. For chlorine, the color is green. At 2 mm Hg pressure. In this pressure, luminous column called positive column appear between anode and cathode. At 1 mm Hg pressure. In this pressure, the positive column appears only near the anode. At the same time, blue luminous glow appears at the cathode called negative glow. A dark space appears between positive column and negative glow called Faraday's dark space. At 0.5 mm Hg pressure. At this pressure, negative glow leaves the cathode and moves towards the anode, and another glow appears on the cathode called cathode glow. The space between cathode glow and negative glow is called Crookes dark space. At 0.05 mm Hg pressure. At this pressure, positive column becomes shortened and breaks into alternative bright and dark discs called striates. At 0.01 mm Hg pressure. At this pressure, all the striates, negative glow, Faraday's dark space disappeared and the entire tube is filled with Crookes dark space. At this stage, a stream of invincible particles are emitted from the cathode and moves towards the anode. The stream of invincible particles are called cathode rays. At 0.0004 mm Hg pressure. At this pressure and below, no discharge passes through a tube because there are very few particles available for conduction.